What's good, y'all? If you haven't already seen part one of this video, link in a corner somewhere. This is an online course that I created to put on my platform, College of Better Barbering. But recently I decided I think I'm gonna scrap that and just throw them up on YouTube for free. But this is part two of a three-part series all about setting and raising your price. I hope you enjoy. But once you've set your own personal standard with your own perception of value, your own resources, and you've polished your product, now we'll come to the point of pricing haircuts. And first things first, you need to understand price does not necessarily equal quality. Price is proportional to the value that your clients see. And your price is dictated off of whatever your personal standard is. So when it comes to setting your price, it's most important to understand the cost of being a barber. The cost that you pay with your time, your money, and your energy. Depending on whatever stage you are in the little resource pyramid, the hierarchy of your resources, your level on the resource pyramid usually dictates how you price your haircuts. When you're at the tier where money is your most finite resource, then your price is generally going to be lower. And when you get to a point where you're charging for your time, it's going to be higher. Your time is a lot more finite than the money you can make within that time. And then when you get to the point where you're charging for your energy, it's a whole new ballgame. But when it comes to your price, understanding supply and demand is the most important. How many haircuts can you do and maintaining your mental, physical, and spiritual health? Because the more haircuts you do, the more that takes a dip, especially once you get past the point where you're over leveraging yourself. And it's also important to understand the supply and demand of your resources. When I'm talking about supply and demand of your service, that's really your client's supply and demand of your resources. They're paying you for the result of the investment of the time, energy, and money that you put into the service, not specifically for the haircut. Most clients cannot tell the difference between a good cut and a great cut. It's how they feel in the chair. It's the value that they perceive they get from you. Now, the real meat and potatoes of this course, raising your price. So firstly, whenever you're starting your business, you're gonna want to, like I said, polish your product. Have the minimum viable product. That means your bare minimum haircut. Your bare minimum haircut needs to be as good as you can possibly make it. Because if you're half-assing with that, anything you scale on top of that is going to be trash, or at least not ideal. So when you're first starting, and let's say you don't have that much experience, you might have experience cutting hair, but you don't have experience, like, let's say, being a barber as a regular thing or a side hustle or any of that. What I consider the best way to go about pricing your haircuts at first is to generally be competitive to the market, but don't overly try to appeal to people's frugality first. You want to just generally see, let's say, barbers in your area that are at your level of skill set, but then also have comparable quality. You're gonna wanna find out and note the barbers around you and like their relative level of quality as well as skill set. And you're gonna wanna price in comparison to that at first. Because when you're first starting, even if your haircuts are pretty good, people don't have that much of an incentive to try you if the price isn't appealing. And to be able to scale adequately, you're gonna wanna have your foundation solid. So you want to have clients that legitimately want to stay within the ecosystem of your business, and then you can build up from there. You don't want a bunch of customers coming through your chair. You want to have the highest client retention you possibly can. And when you're first starting, your skill set usually isn't like that. So the most attractive thing about your business is generally going to be price. If you don't have some other interesting hook with your service, which realistically most people don't. Most people actually do have a lot of things that clients value above their service, but that's usually on a personal level. But it's hard to really tap into that if your bare minimum viable product isn't good. Once your haircuts are good, then you'll have more room to interact with your clients. You'll get to know them better. You'll be able to spend more time focusing on the kind of clients and the kind of interactions you want to have outside of the haircut. Because if the haircut isn't good, it don't matter how much they like you. They're just gonna go to somebody who can do what they like. The clients like to have a barber that's their friend, but they would rather choose a haircutter that can do the work as how they want it, and then get a friend, rather than to have a barber that is inadequate at the haircut, but it's like, oh, that's my friend. Now, I got lucky because when I first started, my haircuts were pretty trash. I mean, I was actively always trying my best, and people could feel that. And that was something that worked in my favor. But my minimum viable product was kind of garbage. But I had a few clients that did rock with me enough to at least see how I would progress over time. And they noticed that I was getting better. And that's one of those things that really established a lot of rapport with my clients, is because I realized that clients don't necessarily pay you for a haircut. They pay you for your best effort. And early on, my best effort wasn't that good. So my price had to be attractive to keep people within the ecosystem. My main demographic when I first started cutting hair was college students, because I started really cutting hair in college. College students, of course, they're at the stage where their money is their most finite resource. So they're gonna value their money more than the haircut service. So generally people that value the money more than the haircut service are going to want to pay a lower price to conserve money. But as I grew and my time became my finite resource, I peeped how that was reflected in my clientele. So at that point in time, my clients were the kind of people who already knew my haircut was great, but they cared more about the time invested into their haircut than the actual haircut, because at that point my quality had already scaled out of their perception of what good is. They already knew that the haircut was already handled whenever they came and sat down. The clients at that level were more pressed about, let's say, having an appointment and that appointment being on time and getting in and out of the chair in a reasonable amount of time. But the way to move from clients that are more pressed about money to clients that are more pressed about time is to increase your leverage. And that means being more time efficient. That means building up the demand of your business. That includes marketing and advertising to a larger demographic of people. But the most important thing is having the highest possible client retention, because having a bunch of customers through your business doesn't mean anything for the growth of your business, because customers might come every now and then, and there might be periods of time where they come frequently. But in my experience, customers are not the people that really advertise and grow your business the way your clients do. If your clients are at a point where their money is the most finite resource, when they talk to their friends, they tend to be around people that are like that. So if you appeal to their perception of value for, let's say, money, then they're gonna recommend you to their friends. But more often than not, customers are just gonna get their haircut and go. They just came for the haircut service, that's really it. But the best way to increase leverage is to streamline your process, working on your haircut ability, of course, working on the other things that go around the haircut, like your customer service, interpersonal communication. But it's important to do that in a way that is most authentic to you, because you don't want to build up a clientele off of the foundation of you being less authentic. I'm low-key a talkative person, but I like to talk about things that really stimulate me on a mental and spiritual level. Like, I'm not going to sit here and talk about what Moneybag Yo spent on this and shade room shit over here. So I don't talk to my clients about that kind of stuff, because that would just create an environment that I don't actually appreciate interacting in. So when my clients sit down, usually I'm a very in my head kind of person. So I be thinking a lot of philosophical things, and even if we're talking about current events things, I like to peel shit a few layers back. I like to talk about metaphysical aspects of things, And I said that the haircut is the product that you're selling, but at a certain point, once the standalone haircut is good, you can start injecting your own personality, your own flavor. Because once you're good at cutting hair, that just stops being as interesting, if I'm being 100%. It's less interesting interacting with clients for real if it's just a haircut that you're doing. But to increase your leverage, you'll have to decrease your supply or increase your demand. Ideally both. And decreasing your supply means decreasing the availability you have to cut hair. Usually because you have other priorities. No barber lives to cut hair. I had a period of time where I legitimately cared a lot more about cutting hair than I cared about being here, realistically. Even though I live and breathe this cutting hair shit for a long time, that was just a season.